4:53. What's up? Welcome to a new episode of Movie Schmovie. This is episode number 253. My name is Steve. I'm one of the co-hosts of the show. And as always, I'm joined by
Ron
and John.
No quote, nothing. No.
I didn't find any quotes this time. But I also
I thought so. We never had a chance. I thought that was pretty good quote.
I felt like if there had been any line that was, there wasn't one particular line. But I only in the last few moments, as we had a little bit of pre-chatter this time, we hopped on the Zoom and before we started recording the episode, so I had time to get a background image. But I will say a lot of it had to do with just not enough time. I didn't have time to go back and, as I usually do, and find those crucial lines. But I will say the movie, the required viewing this week, where I usually get my little intro line from, it wasn't like chock full of like, you would think there would be like a repeated phrase or
like
a line
zinger
that would have really stood out, but there really wasn't that much. But we'll get into what a pick that was in a moment. But I'm John, and I'm just happy to be myself for once.
Hey, that's all you need to be. Never any pressure to do otherwise. We're going to talk about the required viewing in a moment, but I think just as a little heads up of what's coming on the episode, we're going to talk. I saw Ballerina. John was able to see both the new How to Train Your Dragon live action remake, reboot, something, and also he saw Wes Anderson's the Phoenician Scheme. Yeah,
Scheme.
M-E, yeah.
Yes.
And then I'm sure Ronald's got tons to talk about too of other things he's seen. At the end, he saw like 5 movies, right?
At least.
So Ronald, if you didn't see any movies, can I ask you this? Did you at least bring some witticisms?
Oh, of course.
Oh, never not.
Always
right?
in my back pocket.
Always.
I want to talk about a TV show, so maybe we can talk about a
TV show. We'll bring that up when that comes up. Yeah.
We'll do it all.
My required viewing pick this week, it's called The Assessment. This was a movie, like I mentioned on last week's episode, that kind of floated around a couple of the TikToker movie reviewers I follow and really enjoy. And one of them had him on his, these are the movies that I really liked this year or last year that no one has ever talked about in my orbit. And, I had seen it a couple times, mainly because of the cast, I feel like. But I do enjoy his little reviews, and I thought it might be worth checking out. But this is a kind of dystopian sci-fi psychological drama starring Alicia Vikander, Elizabeth Olsen, and Himesh Patel. Basically about in a future where the government, or I don't know, the government, I guess, controls parenthood, basically requiring couples or families that want to start a family to go through a 7-day assessment for the green light to go ahead and have a child. And it kind of turns into I think chaos ensues in some ways, like to Ronald's quote.
What would you say
episodes.
ensues? Does chaos ensue, or shenanigans, or what's the other thing that ensues? Hijinks.
Hijinks. Yeah, I think some version of all those probably in this movie, but I don't know. Yeah, I think as a recap, like, had either of you heard of it? Just a level set. You had seen it, I think, in your timeline or something, John. But Ronald,
I think what I said last time was that it kind of crossed my radar. Like, I remember being aware of it and hearing the name and looking it up and going, "Oh, that sounds interesting," then just completely forgetting it existed until you brought it back up.
That's how it works.
Despite the cast, which is like 3 lead actors that I love. I mean, I think they're all great in this, and
so good.
Particularly Himesh Patel is somebody that, like, I don't know. Is that his name? Himesh Patel?
Yeah.
Okay. But it's like he's someone who, when he pops up, I just adore him. I just think his presence is so great. And this was like a darker version of him than I've seen, and I thought that was really cool. And I think Elizabeth Olsen, when she gets a chance to really strut her stuff, she's incredible as well. And Alicia Vikander, you can't really complain about. I mean, this feels to me like a bookend to Ex Machina.
Yes,
as far as,
like,
does.
the way that she's a person, but she's not quite a person, and you're really not sure what she's gonna do. Right? There's a coldness, but there's also in this one a real wildness and and a vulnerability. I think you see through that at some point, but initially the feel you have for this character is just how off-putting she is. And And that's
Yeah.
definitely the point of her whole existence, it seems. So, yeah, an interesting movie. And I don't know. I remember at some point watching this, I watched it with Nikki, my wife, my partner, um, and my equal. And and at one point, turned to her and I just said, "Aren't you glad you don't live in a dystopian future? Like, aren't you glad that we have a relative like as bad as things have gotten in this
Yeah.
United States of ours, we still have a relatively normal existence where you can mate and like live in a house and you don't have to make any weird deals or agreements. Just, I mean, I guess we all have compromises, but
Yeah.
this movie just made me glad that normalcy is still somewhat normalcy, because this is like a concept. I Once it got to the end, I really got the idea that they're living
Yeah.
in like a dome, and the
Yeah.
bargain for living in this safe environment is you have to agree to these concepts, such
Yeah.
as there's no like making a baby the way people make babies normally.
Yeah.
Normally or naturally. And then that leads into this whole idea of the assessment, which is heightened. It is like a, you could accuse this movie of being one of those movies we talk about where it would be a great 30-minute Twilight Zone episode.
That's kind of what it was framed as to me. Like, that's kind of what
Right.
he said. This could have been a Twilight Zone or a Black Mirror type episode.
But there's enough going on in this that I didn't feel ripped off that it was movie length. Whereas before, when we've talked about that type of movie, it's usually a knock on the movie's ability to sustain over that, of course, that amount of time. And I thought this movie had enough going on, enough weird things that I wasn't quite sure where it was going. Here, I'll throw up my background image. There we go. Yeah. But like, so yeah, I thought that was an element. Like, I was prepared to say that one of the first 15, 20 minutes. I was like, oh, this feels like one of those that might be a good anthology episode that's stretched out. But when it gets to the end, like each of the three characters kind of have their own ending. And
Right.
that's when I realized that the movie was working pretty well for me, at least on a few different levels, that I actually liked how interesting that is, that each ending in a way.
Sure.
Ronald, what did you think of The Assessment?
This is one of the better movies I've seen in a while. Tight script to me. Like it just felt like this feels like one of those what's that Project Black or whatever that site where you put up this blacklist. Feels like one of those blacklist scripts that it's like it
Like
sounds
like a high concept script that's got
yeah,
like a hook to it. Yeah.
whenever you hear that there's scripts that have been kind of thrown around for 5 years, this is a script that's been thrown around for 5 years and nobody can make it because it's too high concept or whatever. And then you find like an indie director that can make it in a like a micro budget and make it pretty spectacular. I just think this is a really good. It felt tight. It felt like it didn't the things that I wanted to know answers for, it answered. The things that it didn't answer, I didn't need to know. And it just felt good. It just felt good, this progression of these tests that happened over these couple of days. This felt like something that I would think that would happen in some way, shape, or form. Like I said, like you were saying, it's a little heightened, but again, I think that we're getting to the point where like heightened is becoming less of a hyperbolic word and closer to reality. Like there's I hear
Reality feels a little heightened lately.
yeah, I hear real things like this all the time.
Right.
Less crazy, less maybe 10 years ago when we first started this podcast, all those things that we would talk about always felt like that could never happen. And then
Sure.
I'll hear a version of a thing like that happening. Like, you know, China has an issue with population, and there's like there's a process that people go through that doesn't sound too different from this. In this, the like the terms of they're kind of allowing people to have babies now, and then you hear about the process sounding a little weird and a little strange, and there are places that have these restrictions, and I just think that um, our reality is just becoming a lot less framed in the hyperbolic and becoming a little more aligned with reality. But this is just done really well. I mean, I love how it escalates and it gets like it feels like Black Mirror in that way. Like the good Black Mirror episodes where it's like, oh man, this can't get any crazier than this, right? And then it's like, oh, this. And then the thing that becomes like the last test is so tame in comparison to everything else, but it also is psychotic to have them want to do this within a very short amount of time. It's like, oh man, like this feels like this
Yeah.
should have gone in a reverse order. But the fact that it's something so simple at the end of everything
Yeah.
makes it 10 times more psychotic. It's like this is a cool somebody really thought this script out. Like I really enjoyed every twist, every turn, every bit of information. I don't think I could have asked for more from the script. I think it was just it did it for me, man.
You know, I love that you're talking so much about that aspect of it because you're defining something that for me was like a relief while I was watching it too, where I
Mhm.
was going like, because I did think like, oh, this is one of those where you kind of, it's dystopian and you get the concept and it's
Right,
moody,
right.
but it kept throwing shit at you, you know?
I was
I
like,
can't say that, I can't say that it never had any lulls, but we're not really talking about this yet. I don't know if you kind of alluded to this in your summary, but like, it's at a certain point, Virginia, the assessor of the title, the titular, the person who's doing the titular assessment, played by Alicia Vikander, she starts acting like a child. Like she basically starts posing the same challenges to this couple that a child would pose.
right.
Love
The
that part
erratic,
of it.
the
Yeah.
erratic
Yeah.
behavior, but it's like she lapses into it so readily, and then there's things she does where you're supposed to be like. We find out later the nature of the test is you're supposed to be treating her more like a child than even you feel comfortable doing because she
Right.
seems like not a child.
Right, right,
But you're
right.
supposed to be like seeing through that ruse and going like, well, if a child was doing this, I wouldn't give them their way, or I wouldn't give them the freedom to do this, or I
Right,
wouldn't
right.
leave them unwatched, or I wouldn't do other things that are talked about in the movie that are really rough. But also, I think the movie is smart to avoid like we see what's happening, and so we know the worst thing that happens in the movie. There's two or three things you might call the worst thing that happens. Um, but the questionable thing that Hamish Patel's character Aryan gets into with Virginia is really seen as like a test of him as a parent and as a man. But I like the way the movie moves past it. Like they don't get too hung up on it because we
Yeah.
know what's happening and we see what's happening. And I like that his wife trusts him and knows that he's not there for this truly dark persona that you might think.
Right,
But
right, right.
the end of his character does show you a guy who's a little bit mired in some idea of a false comfort or a false reality.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Whereas Elizabeth Olsen's character Mia, is more embracing reality at the end,
Right,
and
right, right.
then Virginia embraces reality in a different way, which is very sad. But I just thought that was an interesting level of shading, was that, and it felt like a novel or something to me. The way it got to the end, and there were these three little vignettes that showed you sort of how each character is kind of doing their own thing, and one of them is a very final choice. One of them feels like a questionable choice about the future that actually reminded me, like what Mia does, it reminds me a lot of the show Silo, like just the idea of
Yeah.
like leaving the safe
Yeah.
dome existence for the question of what's happening out in the old world.
Right, right.
Whereas he chooses to live with a little bit more of an illusion, but he's also made an incredible breakthrough in his project that he's working on. So
Yeah.
there's something about if he is the scientist who's obsessed with his project, he has a kind of happy ending, but
Yeah.
we see from the outside how it's like a false world that he's in. I don't know. It was just I thought that was really it felt like I know I said it already, but like it felt like those each character got sort of the fitting ending for what they were doing. And I think Virginia is maybe the most tragic character, but we can see how what she's done to get where she is like maybe the most questionable of everybody. Like what she's done is maybe, it's weird. And the whole thing of how old are these people? She says she's old, but we know that like people age longer than normal lifespan. So
Yeah.
we don't know how long she's been
Been
doing this
doing it.
terrible job.
Yeah.
Someone posted recently on some social platform, I don't remember which one, they said like, what are the truly um soulless jobs, or what are the jobs where you have to be evil to do them,
Mm.
people were posting various things, and I said like, parking enforcement, that kind of shit. um but I think her job would go, if this was a real job,
Oh
it
yeah.
would go into the category of like, you have
Yeah.
to be like a rotten person because she knows that the twist, I guess, is that she knows. And if you're not spoiled on this, I guess jump ahead a couple clicks, but I think it's worth saying that she knows that nobody's going to pass this test. She
Yeah.
knows all along that nothing they do will work. And I think that's really that's what leads to her decision at the end of the film feeling like the weight of everything she's done has just hit her,
Yeah.
because then she realizes her own existence is also a similar kind of lie. She's perpetuating a lie for other people, but
Yeah.
she realizes the lie she's being told to make her do her job is also maybe an empty promise.
Yeah. Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, I was gonna say, there's a new medication that we can add to our running list of all the the
Oh,
movie meds. The Synoxidine, the anti-aging, that's the
Right,
one,
right, right.
maybe bright side. But yeah, I don't know, like just to kind of pile on at the end here a little bit. I think that all the performances were great. I too really liked this movie a lot. Like I felt like it was right in my lane, to Ronald kind of saying. It's I feel like one of the better things I've watched recently. Um that I was really kind of engaged with the whole time. And I think that also one of the things that really kind of stood out, like you were tapping at it, John, a little bit, like the way that Virginia like slowly starts to kind of push them to limits that would be in the realm of a parenting, in the way that their
Yeah.
dynamic would shift. And, you know, I think it really spoke to like the paradox of being a parent, like how high can be and how low can be, and like
mm-hmm.
the challenges and how you each can be on different levels of that spectrum at any given moment as parents.
Yeah.
And I think that movie did a really great job, like when they were kind of fielding the ways that she was maybe acting more like, like a toddler versus a teen or whatever what the situation was. Because, the way they were handling it or the way they were handling the circumstances around it, weren't always completely in sync. And, they were obviously trying to pass an assessment, to the best of their abilities. But you could definitely see moments that Virginia would then kind of exploit, or prey on in a way, which again speaks to the nature of like how kind of cold and calculated this effort that she would do with all these people that she'd do these assessments on. But it also is interesting to think about like how something in nature is supposed to bring people together tighter, um, kind of broke everyone in the conversation apart so kind of tragically. And I think that kind of speaks to that, this attempt to make an like, or basically to uphold this impossible standard in such of like this sterilized world, like literally and kind of figuratively. But I don't know, I love those themes, and I love like the way it kind of intersected with them as people, and for all of their like intellectual successes as I guess scientists or inventors, engineers, whatever. um like some of the most human things are just not attainable, they're suppressed so much in that world. It's just it's completely crushing. But yeah, I don't know, like that's a dour thing, and I think this movie kind of is kind of bleak in a lot of ways, but it is very engaging. And again, I love the cast. I think they're all great in it, but this would definitely be something I would recommend anybody, into that Twilight Zone, Black Mirror, dystopian kind of vibe. Just kind of exploring those themes, especially as a parent. Like that stuff was pretty spot on to the journey, so
Yeah, yeah, for
Right.
sure, man.
but yeah, so
You know how Pee-wee's Playhouse had like a secret word that someone would say?
yeah,
Mm.
yeah,
I just before we started recording had a conversation about how nobody says the word dour, or questioning how often people use the word dour.
yeah.
And here you are with a very natural use of the word
There you go,
dour.
John.
Um, it's the Tower of Dower. No, I'm very, yeah, I'm very in line with what you just said. Like, I think that like this, like I said before, it redeems it is a little bit like paced. And maybe if you hang out for that first half hour or so, wait for the characters to kind of get established. But once they are, you really, there's twists, there's developments. It never really stops moving.
Sure.
And I think this movie has an incredible, like, this may be infuriating to you, but Alicia Vikander's character does something in the last act that is so destructive and so horrible and so cruel to the people that she's with, that you want to see her get some comeuppance. Like, I don't know if you feel that way towards the character sometimes, where you're just like, well, this is just over the line. But
Yeah,
it keeps going from there, and you're like, well, maybe not. But then in the end, you kind of get that the way, again, like I said before, the weight of what she's
Yeah.
done hits her, not in a redemptive way or a vengeance way or a satisfying way, just in sort of a tragic way.
Yeah.
But there is still a little bit of hope in this story, and it's peculiar. There's a little bit of hope, even for um, Aryan's character, who, like I said, seems a little trapped in a fantasy. Even he has a little bit of like he's happy in his own way at the end of this movie. So it's not a completely bleak story, but it is fairly bleak, and it is
Yeah.
like
Yeah.
like the only way forward for any of these characters is for like is breaking free of this situation that they're in,
Yeah.
and that's
Yeah.
why maybe Mia Elizabeth Olsen's character seems the most free at the end, is because she's the one who's leaving what we've just watched as much in the rear view as possible. But no, I'm glad you picked this one. This is one that, like I said, I might not have even remembered existed had you not
Yeah.
mentioned it. So
Cool. What's
it's a pretty cool,
you're up next, man. What do you got? What do you got on deck here?
pretty cool visual style too. I just want to say, like we
Oh
kind
yeah,
of
yeah.
talked about that, but like the table, I liked that green table. I actually kind of liked that. I wouldn't mind having that table. Um, well, the movie I'm going to pick, this is very much in keeping with if I knew for a fact that our recording schedule was going to be we're going to do every week between now and mid-July, I would wait on this pick because it's a good one to align with an upcoming movie that's coming out. But since I don't know for sure that we're not going to have an off week or what's going to happen between now and July 11th when James Gunn's Superman movie comes out, I feel like this is the best time for me to pick a Superman movie
Oh.
as my pick. And this is a movie that loomed large for me. I haven't watched it much in about 40 years, so we'll just see how well it's held up.
Just a
I
little
think
bit.
I think this is a fun movie that even people that really love it don't necessarily think is a great movie, but I think it has a lot of talking points that might come out of it, and it's very funny given what it is. We're in an era where people talk about superhero fatigue, and people have a lot of theories about these franchises and how you keep them going. And I just want to say that that was a question that they had even back in 1983 when Richard Pryor signed on to be the second lead in Superman 3, which is our next pick. So we're going to be watching Superman 3 with Richard Pryor and Christopher Reeve and Margot Kidder and all the rest. And we're going to kind of look at a different era's attempt to keep these franchises going. And yeah, what does it look like when the guy that directed the Beatles movies makes a Superman movie that is also a Richard Pryor movie? I mean, it'd be a little bit like if Iron Man 3 was also a Kevin Hart movie. And I don't mean just like Kevin Hart's in it. I mean like you pick up with his character and it feels like it's the kind of movie he would make, and then like Superman's kind of in it. I don't know if you guys have seen this movie or
Yeah,
remember it.
yeah.
Okay, so I think it's going to be a fun one to watch and talk about, even if it's campy and corny and maybe kind of kiddie. I don't honestly know how this movie is going to feel in 2025, but I've been holding this one, and so yes, we will watch Superman 3 from
Where we
1983.
got? Where's this? We got this streaming anywhere?
I'm sure
HBO
somebody's got it.
Max.
Okay, yeah, I was about
HBO
to say
Max, and $3.99 on the digital rentals.
Not bad.
Good deal. Yeah.
Richard Pryor was like when he was promoting this movie was very upfront about the fact that he thought the script was shit, but the money was good. I'm trying to find it. Like, where is this? He made a pretty good
Who directed this? Oh, Richard
Richard
Lester.
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 He's the guy they brought
Right.
in. Richard Pryor earned $5 million for his role in Superman 3.
Oh
This
my
was a
God.
significant amount of money for a black actor at the time, according to a post. For
Wow.
comparison, Christopher Reeve received $1 million for the film.
Oh
Wow.
wow.
So that's the thing I remember. Like
You
Richard
said
Pryor,
4
like,
million?
he made $5 million.
Oh, 5 million versus
Yeah.
one?
Yeah, versus one. But I mean, Richard Pryor was a huge star.
Oh
at
no,
this time. Yeah.
no question against Pryor as a huge star. I'm just saying Christopher Reeve in the third Superman movie making $1 million seems weird.
Yeah, that is weird.
I don't know. We'll see.
Yeah. Well, I mean, it's
We'll
just it's an
we'll
it's,
talk
it's
more
an-
about
it-
it.
Yeah, right. We'll talk more about it next week. But I
Yeah.
do think that I think Christopher Reeve is good in this movie, and I don't know if Richard Pryor's necessarily good in it, but I think you get a good taste of like what he brought to anything he was cast in. There was a certain he went, comic actors have the like, oh, here's the 5 things I do. Richard Pryor definitely had like things I do,
Sure.
and he brought him to this movie, but it was essentially a kid movie, and it's he wasn't a kiddie performer
Right.
for the most part. So no, it's I remember seeing this. I'll save it for next time, but I remember very specifically when I saw this movie. So that's another
Very cool.
childhood memory, which is just what you love to hear, isn't it? From a middle-aged man on a podcast.
The crazy pick. I can't wait to watch.
Oh, let's see here.
Well,
All
hold
right.
that enthusiasm, Ronald.
Okay.
It's 2 hours and 5 minutes long.
Oh
So
no. It's been a long time since I've seen this movie. Long time.
What we got? Okay, so again on HBO Max if you have that, and you can rent it for a couple bucks on all the digital platforms. Moving on, I don't know. How do you want to handle the three movies we want to talk? I want to go through them pretty rather quickly, or I don't want to. I don't know that if we have three new releases, relatively new releases, that we need to do full out reviews, especially if Ronald has
yeah,
seen
we
none
can
of
we
them.
can just talk about them in brief. We can do a
Okay.
little.
Well, I'll start by just saying, Aaron and I went and saw Ballerina on opening day last week.
Okay. Okay.
Um, I'm in on anything relating to John Wick. And
You mean John Rick?
John Rick. Yeah.
John
Only
Rick.
I call him John Rick. Um, but yeah, it's been interesting in this movie, the way that the transition, this movie has gone, the transitions this film has gone through, from when it got announced to, I guess, reshoots that were happening. Chad Stahelski, who's kind of the overseer of the whole Wick universe, kind of the brains behind it. Him and David Leitch, I guess, started it. I think Leitch is maybe on as a producer still, but it's like interesting because John Wick has become so successful, and it's like one of the more popular action franchises, really, that are new, relatively new, of the last, I don't even know how long. And I loved it. I love it. Like, and to see them try to like spin these off into a TV show with the Continental and this movie and whatever else they're going to do with John Wick if that continues on, like the main franchise with Keanu. Um, this movie as a spinoff, kind of with the ballerinas that kind of got introduced. I think it's in John Wick 3. Um, the Ruska, I can't remember the name of the group that they're in. When he goes to, I guess it's Russia. I don't even know. Uh, but it's a cool idea to take one of those characters that you are introduced to in John Wick, and you're like, wow, that's a whole world in this world that you don't
Yeah.
get much exposure to. And you put a popular, actress Ana de Armas, who is, it's clearly up the game for the movie. I mean, she's actually really good in it. I don't know that like there's any kind of crazy performance in these movies that are anything special, but I mean, I think the stunts and the action and like her involvement in it, watching some of the behind the scenes stuff is really awesome. And I think that's a through line to any of the things that have to do with John Wick, because of Chad Stahelski, it's no secret. Even, John Wick appears in this movie. Keanu is in this film. Again, it happens around John Wick 3. It happens in tandem, I guess, with that movie.
Mm.
Like when he goes to, where does he go? I can't remember. I gotta look it up now. When he gets like the branding on his back,
Yes.
to get
Yes.
like Angelica Houston, like kind of like
Yeah.
releases him or something.
Yeah.
Like that scene crosses this movie, and that's the kind of connection.
Oh, okay.
And
Cool.
her character crosses him outside of John Wick, but in her movie. You know what I mean?
That's pretty cool.
But yeah, it's a cool movie, man. Like we both really liked it. Some awesome action sequences, and I mean, there's probably two of them in this one that are up there with the John Wick world. In the action sequences that you could probably remember from the movies. There's a couple that are up there, man. There's a really kind of awesome. There's an awesome sequence like where like they're involving like flamethrowers. That is just like, I
Oh,
don't even
wow.
think they show it in the trailer. I don't think maybe they show a section of it, but just a really cool sequence. And it's also just cool seeing Keanu for a little bit in the movie. But yeah, I mean, I just feel like if you like the John Wick movies, there's nothing not to like about this movie. Like he's in the film briefly enough that kind of, if that's what you're looking for. But like if you buy into that world of what John Wick sold, and especially that cross section of the ballerinas and that little bubble inside of it, it's just a really cool idea to pursue. I don't know, the movie didn't do incredibly well. I think it actually underperformed last weekend.
Yeah, I heard that
but
it was kind of
it was
disappointing.
like, yeah, 8 or 10 million under what estimates were. But
I mean, in that respect, disappointing.
again, like I don't know what it ends up making in the end, but I do think it suffers a little bit just because it's not a John Wick movie. That's why they kind of made that weird title from the world of John Wick in the name of the film, which is so weird.
Yeah.
But it's gotten pretty good reviews and audience scores really high, cinema scores really high. Like it is a very entertaining action thriller. Like that's it. And she's great in it. She again, her action sequences are really good. And there's some amazing, stunt choreography, which is again, this is like a branding thing for this franchise, and it's on display full out in the movie, right? That I'm talking in the Ballerina. I don't know what they do from here with it, if they do anything with it, but even as standalone, it's cool just to see like the Ruska Roma is what I couldn't remember. Ruska Roma. Um, it's just it's just a nice extension of that world if you like it. There's nothing to not like about it, I don't think, and I would definitely recommend checking it out.
Yeah,
Uh,
I have some trusted friends that saw it and said it was it was great or fucking awesome or whatever. And just
yeah,
whatever it made me think like, okay, it sounds like if you're fans of this type of action and you're fans of both
that's right.
blowtorches and grenades being shoved into people's mouths or whatever, like you're on board for just whatever kind of crazy stuff they can come up with in a
Sure.
movie like this to do to people, And I think
Yeah.
yeah, it sounds exciting. Um, Continental, I never watched it. Did either of you guys watch it?
No.
Yeah, I did. Yeah,
How
again,
was it?
I thought it was good. Honestly, like it's right it's right like the quality is there for all these things. Like the John Wick movies, I think are all really good, if not great. I like love that series. And the Continental, I really like too. It's a little smaller, I guess, in the scope of what some of the the movies like the stunts and stuff like that. And I mean, I don't think that any of the performances in it stand out as much to me. I mean, you get to see a little bit of like, the idea of the Winston, kind of how he's getting the Continental together, and like the that character, which is a little less interesting because they aren't the core of the action in the franchise. So it's more about like what crossed their paths. But I thought it was fun. I mean, it's probably the in the series of everything, it's probably the lesser of all of it, in my opinion. Like the John Wick films, and then Ballerina, and then the Continental probably is, how you would rank it, but um, it's definitely worth checking out. It's definitely cool.
Mm.
But yeah, no, I love the Wick franchise, and I mentioned a couple weeks ago the documentary that came out, the Wick is Pain doc that was on I think Apple TV, was also a good watch too.
Yeah, I mean, it's. I guess this is like moment of truth time because there's like talk pretty much that John Wick 5 is happening. They just haven't figured it out, right? Like
How?
what the
Yeah,
story is, right? Like Chad Stahelski has said he's trying to figure out how to make it make sense. I honestly don't know how they can necessarily make it make sense with without kind of breaking
why four worked so well, I
the
think. Yeah,
weight of the world, but I
yeah,
also can understand it's like it's just that question of, well, if you bring him back now, how do you ever create tension around his existence
yeah,
again?
yeah.
But they can do that. They can up the ante. They can do 5 or 6 or 7 instead of 4, and it'll be the same thing. But I don't know that you'll ever trust the idea that he'll stay dead. But
Yeah.
I don't know that we thought he was going to stay dead for sure at the end of 4. It just felt like they did a good job of making that moment land.
I think
So I'm
I'm
intrigued to
very
see what
mixed on
they
that
do.
idea, honestly. Like that whole like yeah, I'm very mixed on that all. Like I would, like I say, this whole conversation, like I will watch anything having to do with that franchise or the world, but it's really tough. It would be very challenging for me to like be excited for another John Wick movie, like a John Wick 5, only because I really do think they like did an amazing job
Yeah,
of like
they did it. They
of
pulled it
letting him
off.
go. Like
Yeah.
honestly, like
Yeah.
the task was completed, and that was the end, and it was like, let him go. I love that. I freaking love the way that movie ended, really. And the stake stuff just gets so ugly and murky. And it's like, why do you care? But there'll be another one. And I'll go see it still, but I'll have to just
Yeah.
come to terms with. I'll have to come to terms with it.
I mean, you get to like, I guess you get to jump off of any franchise when you want to.
Sure.
So if you like
Yeah.
it that he
Sure.
died, stop going.
Yeah.
Stop coming to see more. Um, I'll run through. a couple of these. I saw the remake of How to Train Your Dragon. They call it live action remake. This actually does have human actors in it, so it's more live action than a lot of the supposed live action remakes.
Sure.
But instead of a computer generated remake of a cell animated classic, this is a live action slash slightly better CGI version of a animated CGI film from what is it? 14 years ago, 15 years ago. When did How to Train Your Dragon come out? 2010. So 15 years ago, uh, Dean DeBlois wrote and directed How to Train Your Dragon from a book called How to Train Your Dragon by Cressida Crowell. And a lot of people say that movie wasn't super faithful, but this new one is a remake of the first movie, not like a readaptation of the book. It doesn't really change the source at all. This is just about the first movie screenplay, maybe spread out just a little bit. I don't even know if there's that much new material in this, but it's paced a little bit differently because it's human actors. Um, and in a way, I want to say if you liked How to Train Your Dragon, the heights and are there in this movie. Maybe not to the same height, but the idea that there's certain sequences in the original How to Train Your Dragon, I think that movie's kind of a classic, kind of a contender for perfect movie, maybe.
Yeah, I
Um,
agree.
the only way the new one improves on it at all is just by having amped up effects. I feel like I'm just repeating stuff I said to you guys before we started recording last week. But someone said that it looks like when they create a new version of a classic game for a new console and they just upscale the graphics. A lot of the dragons in this just look like upscaled graphics. They
Yeah.
didn't necessarily look like different designs. The designs are still sort of cartoony, right down to the human costuming and human hair design. Everybody feels like they're sort of made to look as much like a cartoon character as possible. And I think that kind of hurts the movie's reason for existing for me a little bit. Um, but I mean, I love this original movie. So the moments that they exactly copy in this, I mean, it's kind of like if you went to see like a high school production of How to Train Your Dragon or something, and it was like it felt like, oh, they're doing a tribute to this thing that worked so well. It would still work pretty well if they do it right. And this is kind of
Right.
like that. I don't
Right.
think this is going to replace the original for me. I think a lot of my problem with these remakes of animated films where they do them in slightly more grounded or more realistic visual style, a lot of my problem is just like my problem with when people say that anything's better than the original of anything. Like I give so much credit to the original that when things are slightly more big budget or more amped up, I think last time when we were off mic, Ronald, I talked to you about this is like when a song you love gets a cover version or a live version that's
Mm.
just a lot more instruments are on stage and it's bombastic and orchestral and there's a choir and you could be like that is an awesome version of that. But I still think the more true version is the slightly more humble version.
Yeah.
How to Train Your Dragon, the original, is not like a humble small movie though. It's a beautifully animated film. So I kind of think that this whole idea that I have that these movies are problematic to me because I don't like the idea of them replacing the originals. I don't know that that will happen. I really don't know that it will. This movie is not as charming as the animated version. Some of the vocal performances in that just can't be matched by what's happening in this one. But the actors are all good. The script is great. The story is strong. The making friends sequence that chokes me up every time I watch the original. It works here too. It's basically beat for beat. So it's a weird experiment. You'll look at the reviews for this and you'll see that it's a lot of people are saying a similar thing, but like this idea that this movie is only not really great to me because it is a copy of something that I think is better. But if we're going to say, is this and we talked about this before too, but a re-upping of the IP, there's a chance of them doing the second one in live action and then the third, and there's even more books than I think they got to in animation. So this could be a real, I mean, it's almost bothering me that it's a cynical approach of like, oh, this is IP that we need to refresh. But if I use as any testament to the fact that this movie works, at the screening I saw it, which was a real trick. You guys, I thought, were much more excited about this movie than me, but I was the only one at the screening. Um, but like there were kids there, and I heard kids reacting to this movie, and a lot of my cynicism or a lot of my feelings of the cynicism of the movie washed away when I
That's
heard
good.
kids reacting to this very effective story with characters that you root for and like Hiccup. Animated, I'd still like him better, but he's a really rootable guy. He's a good-hearted, sweet, smart kid who's a little different, and I don't know. There's a lot going on there that works, and this movie
Nice.
does not. This movie doesn't step on all that. It's just not as good as a classic film. So what can you say? Um, so that's How to Train Your Dragon. And then I guess I don't know that I have much to say about the Phoenician Scheme. I just want to say that if you like Wes Anderson, there's a
Mhm.
good chance you're going to find this movie to be very funny and very entertaining. And I'm happy to answer any questions you guys have about it. Benicio del Toro is great in it. He carries the dialogue and the character. And this will remind you a little bit of, in my mind, some of his more entertaining films like The Grand Budapest Hotel or Royal
Okay.
Tenenbaums. But it's also a Wes Anderson movie in the sense that if you're one of those people who is going to be annoyed that he makes movies in his own style or that his movies have a similar visual aesthetic, I don't know that it's that similar from movie to movie to movie, but I do know what it is people like or don't like about him.
Right.
I don't think this movie is going to convince any haters at
Mm.
all. Um, and I don't know that he will at this point in his career convince any haters. He is very well defined, but the stuff that's fun in this movie is so fun, and you love seeing like Riz Ahmed is great, Bryan Cranston is great, Tom Hanks is great. Yes, all these people pop up for these little small one
Yeah.
scene or one sequence roles. It's a very episodic film, but I mean, if we're going to look at anything as a major revelation, Michael Cera is
That was going to be
fantastic.
my one question. Yeah.
I mean, he's so good, and it makes you realize, like, oh yeah, he gets it. Like he's an actor that is kind of hard to pin down sometimes, um, and he just really brings it, and he's perfect for this tone. And then there's Mia Thrappleton, I believe is her name, as the other kind of lead of the film. Um, and she's great. I mean, she's deadpan and funny, and her chemistry with Benicio del Toro is great. And again, it's a guess what, Ronald? It's a movie about a fucked up distant father and all these crazy kids that he has. I mean, it's like it's everything that you might expect from Wes Anderson. But I do think if you are a fan, you'll appreciate the little differences, the little ways this is kind of like a pulp novel
Mm.
about this great man and his many adventures. There's a little line in the film that just it really summed up what I liked about his characters. At one point, his daughter is flashing back in a dream to some memory of him, so it's a crazy moment. But she's describing him as, and she says something like, "He was all scratched up from a plane crash as usual." And it's a running joke that he repeatedly has plane crashes, and his character keeps like surviving, and he kind of begins to believe he can't die because it's like, I'm not going to die because I keep living. But this idea that he's just the type of adventurer who people are constantly trying to kill, and he keeps living. It's just, if you hear that and that sounds to you like, oh, that sounds like Wes Anderson, that sounds right up that alley of like deadpan, silly humor. There's a lot of violence in this, but it's played a lot for laughs. And then, like I said, that core cast. Plus, it's fun to see the Wes Anderson regulars like Bill Murray and Willem Dafoe and Scarlett Johansson and people we've seen before. See them pop up in this and see how they pop up. I will say one other thing, which is that the movie has an opening sequence where the credits play out and it's in order of appearance. It shows the whole cast. And knowing who all is in this and seeing their names come up in the order in which they're going to be in the movie gives you a sense very early on of like, oh, I guess we're not going to see so and so for a while
Yeah.
because they were
Mm.
pretty deep in that. And I feel like they must know they're doing that because there's a character played by, because you see the character names and the actors' names. And there's a character played by Benedict Cumberbatch that you realize they keep mentioning him. But if you paid attention to the opening credits, you know that we won't see Uncle Newbar for a long time in this movie. And
Mm.
when he finally shows up, he's so funny. His eyebrows are funny. His beard is funny. It's just, again, it's the pleasure of when it clicks. The people that show up in a Wes Anderson movie, it's a little bit like who shows up in a Coen Brothers movie or whatever. It's like, did they get a meaty part or a bit part? Do they, what are they going to bring to it? It seems like it must be fun to show up and be in a Wes Anderson movie, is all I
Mm.
must say. But this is, yeah, I feel like this is an easy one. If you're a fan, you're gonna like it. If you're not a fan, this is not gonna be the one that makes you a fan.
Very good. What do we got? Ronald, you said you saw some TV you wanted to mention before we wrap
Yeah.
up?
The Owen Wilson show Stick on Apple TV.
Oh, how is it?
It's fun, man. It's like
Oh yeah, we started
uh
this too.
yeah, a golf star that kind of plummeted into obscurity because of a incident that they kind of get into in parts and the inciting incident. It's really interesting. So he's shamed out of the industry. Something happens on live TV that he describes at some point, and he's working at a golf store at this point. And he goes to a country club and sees this kid with an insane swing, and he has this idea that he wants to help this kid. This kid wants nothing to do with golf, but he has an incredible swing. And it's a redemptive story. It seems like the path that we're on right now, 4 episodes in, where he tries to recruit this kid, and they show this in one of the versions of the trailer. I'm not giving too much away, and it's just a pursuit of the redemption of himself, and also helping his kid kind of avoid becoming the type of player that would have done what he did to get exiled from the industry. So
Yeah.
it's good. It's like him. I'm not too familiar with the kid. What's his name?
Aaron kept thinking he was the guy from Anora.
All right, right. It
He
looks
kind of
like
looks
him.
like him.
Peter Dagger,
Mm.
who's really good, and then uh, Owen Wilson's friend Mark Maron, who is Mark Maron, and it's so fun to watch him poke fun at Owen Wilson in a way that he doesn't always expect, but he's also, he has that Mark Maron knowledge, which is always fun to see and
He's so great.
warm.
He's such an interesting actor to me. Like I
Yeah.
love that he's kind of getting these roles that give him a chance to kind of
Yeah.
spread out.
There's a scene where he identifies who Owen Wilson is, and they show it in one of the trailers, and he's just poking the bear, just talking about how washed up he is. Hey, yeah, you did that thing where it's really, really fun watching Mark Maron be Mark Maron. And
Yeah.
Hmm.
he has there's a sweet spot, especially seeing the kind of friendship that he has with Owen Wilson that he doesn't really have on screen a lot, where he has like a kind of dual, a dynamic duo going on that also is dueling constantly verbally. It's really fun to watch. And this kid is I, just excuse me, a warm spot. Just reminds me of when we were all young and kind of lost and trying to find our way. You
Hmm.
know, it's a really relatable kind of role. And it's fun. I just think that Apple doesn't miss, man. I don't see very many things on Apple that I'm disappointed with, and this is just a start of something that I'm enjoying. So,
Yeah, this is yeah. I just want to add that Judy Greer is also in it
Oh, cool.
oh
as
yes, she
his ex,
is.
and she's great in it.
She is.
But yeah, we like devoured this. What's out so far? It's got like that feel good vibe to it. Like
Yeah,
there's some tragedy that is in their past that you're kind of learning about through the show, but just like the vibe of the show is very positive, and
yeah,
and honestly, the thing I think I said like 3 times watching the first 4 episodes out loud to Aaron was like, I really miss Owen Wilson. Like I really
yes,
do. Like it reminded me how much I really enjoy him when he's in, in general, I really enjoy him. But like just that like you can just tell he's running with dialogue, like kind
yeah,
of like the Vince Vaughn does it. Like
yeah,
Wedding
I was
Crashers
gonna
was
say
like,
now that Vince Vaughn is like
yeah,
showing up in photos with Trump
with
and stuff,
Trump, right? Yeah.
we need to turn our eyes away towards Owen Wilson. But I feel like yeah, Vince Vaughn had with Bad Monkey, it was a similar thing of like, oh, here's a good vehicle for his persona,
Totally.
yeah,
and
Totally.
it's a vibe that we like and a
yeah.
flavor that we haven't gotten in a while.
And
And
even just like,
Owen Wilson is very funny and very likable, and it's great to hear that maybe this is a winner for him.
yeah, for sure. And I mean, I'm to the point, like even recently in Loki, like he's great in that. Like you're just like, wow,
Yeah,
I love Owen Wilson.
So likable,
And the
yeah.
whole time I'm watching, it's like, God damn, he's so charming. He's so funny.
he
Like
is.
I want to see more of him. He hasn't really done a lot recently outside of Loki. I know he was in that Haunted Mansion remake a couple years ago. And I mean,
Yeah.
and again, not a great movie, but he was great in it.
He'd be
But
good on White Lotus.
sure,
Oh,
I'll take
right.
him wherever he wants to go. I just came out of this show
He
like,
could be like a retired athlete or something that's at some, that's at
Yeah.
some resort trying to hide
yeah,
out.
maybe he's the character from Stick in the White Lotus. He
Let's
gets
just
this
go
Yeah.
ahead and
kid,
say that's a
gets this
Yeah.
crossover.
kid,
This is the
yeah,
same.
crossover.
Yeah.
But yeah, I definitely recommend. I'll recommend for me for sure because I'm
Yeah.
loving the first 4 episodes, and I can't wait to watch more of the
It's
show.
so good, man. And his
But hold on, but it falls prey to the same thing. Like no one knows the show exists.
Yeah.
yeah,
Your point about Apple not missing, they have incredible programming. Their shows are so consistently great,
yeah.
but like nobody knows this
Nobody
show. I
knows.
mentioned
No,
the show
consistently great
Murderbot.
and consistently secret.
Yeah,
Yeah, like Stick. I mentioned Murderbot to somebody else too, which is another show they're airing with Alexander Skarsgård that I really liked.
yeah,
No one knows anything about the shows they have. Like
yeah.
I don't know what they're doing. Like it's
Yeah.
crazy. No, and I know we're kind of on the inside a lot of this stuff, seeking these things out, but like it's so wild to me that it's that severe that like there's a show with Owen Wilson, a comedy, like with and Mark Maron, like
Yeah.
that no one knows about.
Here, and look, I watched the Apple keynote the other day. I'm using the beta of iOS 26.
26, yeah.
I watched the keynote. They mentioned Apple TV like twice.
It's
Apple TV
insane.
Plus. It's like I would if I were them, I'd be like, and you could use Apple Intelligence to watch the fucking show that's on your device. It's like,
Yeah,
why are we
I know.
pussyfooting around the fact that this is like a background in your hardware kind of
It's just like a content library they're spending cash on. Like it's
yeah.
just
Mm-hmm.
it literally is a way to have relationships
Yeah.
and for them to spend cash and balance the sheets and but yeah, I don't know. I love their programming. I really
Me
do look
too.
forward to a lot of things that they put out. And again, I don't know if I talked about it on the show, but Murderbot 2, I won't get into it too deep, but I thought that was really fun too,
I need to
which
watch
is
it.
another Apple TV series that came out like 3 weeks ago, 4 weeks ago. Blip, nothing.
Nobody
Like
knows about it. Yeah.
not even any awareness for it.
Yeah.
But I'm
Yeah,
sorry.
no, I
I
keep
didn't mean
seeing
to
that one too.
the
that,
last
like,
thought you had.
recommended. So yeah.
And these shows
Um,
are beautiful. Like they look
Yeah.
like nothing looks like these
Yeah.
shows. Like it's I'm watching I guess we can't talk about it quite yet, but the Jason Momoa show.
Mm.
Which one is
She
that?
the one about Hawaii. It's like it's
Again,
actually
I don't even know. Like I just
so,
like
so it's
I
not out
don't
yet.
either.
It's not
oh,
out
okay,
yet,
okay.
but it's they're doing no promotion of it though. It's
That's crazy.
called Chief of War.
Oh, I did see that
Yeah, and it's
email.
about
Yeah.
it's an untold story of a war that pretty much divided Hawaii at one point, and I guess brought it together at the same time at I guess after the events of it. But it's gorgeous. It's done in the native language in Hawaii. Like it just is really they did the work on the show, and it's one of those the
So
money's on the
this
screen.
is the one that you're not allowed to talk about yet.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah. That comes out in like August.
Oh my God, it's that far out?
Yeah, I think it like comes
Damn.
out in August or something like that.
Wow. What's a little teaser? There you go. There's
Yeah, it's a little teaser.
Just yeah, but just to the point of the Apple TV, like it's just it's so weird. It's so
Yeah,
weird.
it is.
And like even relating this the mention of Superman coming out earlier, I saw they announced like today or yesterday that Rachel Brosnahan is like the lead in season 2 of Presumed Innocent, which is a big
Mm.
show for them.
Oh, wow.
And that I love that show. I was always great.
Yeah.
And like that's a huge get. Like this is Lois
Yes.
Lane a month
Yeah.
before her big Superman movie comes out, and they're announcing that she's the lead of the show.
Yeah.
And it's like, again, did it register?
They're
I don't even think people know there's a show called Presumed Innocent.
They're not even mentioning that one of the movies that got a can standing ovation, I know that's like a thing, is a fucking Apple TV movie. The Spike Lee movie
Oh yeah, with
coming
Denzel.
out is an Apple TV movie. F1.
Oh,
An Apple
F1. Oh.
No, I'm saying that those are two movies.
Oh, both of those.
Both of
Sorry,
those
yes,
movies
yes.
are Apple TV movies, and they're just not pushing them as like you
You
should
know,
get
those
yourself-
those can standing ovations, those sound annoying to me. When they
Yeah,
say like this was
yeah,
an
so
8-minute
weird.
standing
Yeah,
ovation,
yeah.
I'm like, really? Did
Yeah.
people not just like get fucking sick of that at some point? My hands wouldn't. My hands would be raw. These lily white collegiate hands. Yeah. you have to do-
One the F1 comment. It's a little different for that because that's like one of those partnerships with I think it's Paramount or
right,
you know
right.
there's tons of marketing around that one,
Yeah.
which I actually am really excited to see that. Obviously,
Cannot wait.
the Brad Pitt of it all. But I've actually have like heard from a few people that it's like really, really good, like
Ooh,
entertaining, big
That's
summer
great.
movie. But
Damson.
yeah.
Yeah.
But what was I gonna say? Oh, did you see that they released the trailer for your iOS devices through the Apple TV app that has the haptic response for the trailer? It's
No.
really cool. Like, go find it in the Apple TV app. The trailer for F1, they released it last night. You can watch the trailer, and it uses like the haptic response on, especially if you have newer devices. It's probably even better. I have an older iPhone,
Oh.
but even with my old iPhone, it was kind of a cool experience, especially for a movie about F1 racing. To
Yeah.
feel my phone like vibrating to the kind of score and or scenery of the trailer.
Oh, that's
Hmm.
I mean,
crazy.
again, they're not promoting their shows, but they are making cool haptic trailers.
Do they call it a haptic Oh,
Yeah,
it's a
yeah.
haptic trailer.
It's like I think it's a first. I was reading the press
I
release
mean, I've
for it,
never
but
heard of such a
it's
thing.
really wild. But yeah, sorry. Was there any other shows you wanted to mention, Ronald?
Um, no, I think that's it. I watch Apple TV stuff, man. Between the studio, we pretty much went head over heels for the studio. And,
Most of the stuff they release, man.
yeah,
Like
most of the stuff they come
we
out with
talk
is,
about it all the time. I think we're the only people
Yeah.
that do.
Yeah, we've
Maybe.
given them a lot of
and them.
ink. I'll mention one show that's not on Apple TV Plus, but I'm kind of enjoying it. I
Mm,
know, we've had varying degrees. On Ronald, you're not as much of a true crime guy. Steve, you might be a little more of a true
Yeah.
crime guy. The Mortician, the new show on
How
HBO
is that? I
Max.
cannot wait to see that. That
I gotta say, it's
this is
pretty
a Steve
interesting.
show. This is a Steve
What
show.
is this
Two
show?
episodes, 2 episodes in, it's
Steve,
very interesting.
watch the trailer.
The
It's a
sense
Steve
of
show.
even what kind of crime it is evolving over the course of it. It's
Yeah,
just an interesting, weird show,
yeah,
but it
yeah,
gets
yeah.
all into the ethics behind like crematoriums. And there's this one guy who's any kind of crime you can imagine coming out of that is like this guy's got his
Yeah.
hand in it. It's pretty interesting. But on this, I found myself when I finished the first episode. I'm so used to shows like that appearing on my radar, and they've already come out, or they've already, they're bingeable or whatever. When I've discovered it was a weekly show, and I had watched the only episode of it, I was mad.
Oh wow.
Yeah,
And then the second episode came out, and I was like, "Oh yeah, I got to remember now. This is another Sunday night HBO
yeah,
So
show. I guess
it's a documentary
it's a
series?
docu series
yeah.
of
Oh
yes,
wow.
The Mortician. So I would recommend that if you're a true crime
I thought you were
fan.
gonna say that I've been hearing great things. It's on my list to maybe watch this coming week. Department Q
Mm. No,
on Netflix with
I'll
Matthew
make a note
Good.
of that.
That's supposed to. It's Scott
Oh,
Frank's new series on Netflix. I've heard that was great. Like it's kind of like a mystery thriller drama, but yeah, I gotta get the Mortician on my list. Okay, cool.
yeah. I thought that you saw it. I thought that as soon as he said it, you'd be like,
I've never even heard of it.
I was like, this
Never even
this is
heard of
the
it.
kind
It
of
does
one
that
that
does
you
sound
guys
right up
would
my
be
alley
talking
though.
about.
Yeah, no, definitely.
And this one is so crazy. I
You
have to
watched
see
it?
it. I saw bits and pieces of the
Oh, okay,
first episode.
okay, okay,
I'm in. I'm in. I'm in.
okay,
This is one of those shows that I think collectively we'll be talking about.
okay.
It just
Yes.
is that weird of a
Wow.
show. Yeah.
All right, sounds good. Um, anything else you guys want to mention?
Well,
Oh,
I will. Oh, Ronald, go ahead.
Whoa,
oh,
whoa, whoa!
No, whoa, whoa.
yeah. No,
He's a whiz, guys.
because I didn't say this in the beginning. VJ journalist Ananda Lewis passed away today from struggle with breast cancer. I just want to say that she had a pretty profound impression on me as a kid. BET, Teen Summit, and just being a VJ on MTV. She's strikingly beautiful and really smart, and she handled her battle with cancer in a way that was very transparent. She was one of those people, like Steve Jobs, was diagnosed, wanted to go the holistic way, and then when she realized that cancer was kind of killing her, she came back and it was too far gone. It's
Mm,
like, you hear those stories every day about people that want to take the holistic route. And
right.
I think you could do both at the same time. Get treated while also handling it a holistic way. If you want to drink green smoothies and stuff like that, do that while you're getting radiation. You may recover faster. But don't do one or the other. And this is one of those stories that's just devastating. She's only 52 years old, if I'm not
Mm,
mistaken.
Wow.
Um, yeah, beautiful spirit. Sad she's gone.
That's
Oh,
crazy.
yeah, man.
I'll just mention too, since it happened today, Brian Wilson of the Beach Boys died
Yeah,
today.
man.
One of our musical geniuses. We just lost Sly Stone a couple of days ago. It's really kind of seeming like open season on like legit geniuses, like
Yeah.
mind expanding geniuses. I may even sneak in one of my favorite Beach Boys songs as the outro music on this episode. You just don't
Mm,
know. But if you do hear that song and you wonder what it is, it's a song called "I Know There's an Answer." Which
yeah.
is just one of my favorites. And I also wanted to mention this because I don't often do this. I've realized when I'm on other people's shows, I always plug this show, but I don't
Okay.
always plug other shows I'm on when I'm on this show. And my friends Jonathan and Becca and Chris are kind enough to have me on. They have a show called Below Grade Level where they read young adult novels on the show, and they always have me on to close out the book. So I'm on that show every 5 or 6 episodes, and I think
Mm.
around the time this episode is coming out, the latest episode of Below Grade Level that I'm popping
Oh,
up on
cool.
is going to be coming out. So if you, I don't know, if you look and see, it's like R.L. Stein and Sweet Valley High and
Nice.
Animorphs and all those young adult series. It's a very irreverent but also kind of affectionate trip through those things by just reading them, aloud.
Oh,
And
cool.
I don't know if anyone could listen to those shows and get an actual sense of what's happening in the books, but definitely it's a fun show to do. So yeah, Below Grade Level, and I think, like I said, I think there's an episode that I'm on that's coming out around this time. So
Cool.
That's
Cool.
awesome.
there's a plug. I don't often do that.
All right.
Uh, last thing,
Last thing. Got it.
unpopular opinion. I like the Beach Boys better than the Beatles. I said it,
Oh,
man. Beach
you know,
Boys over the
I,
Beatles.
I can I don't know. I think that's almost like a hipster opinion. Does that make it unpopular or just sort of like it's the undercard opinion? Because I
It's no
think that like
slander on the
no, I
Beatles,
know
but
you're
like,
saying I know
yeah,
that's not what you're saying. I'm saying I think there's a lot of people who might put that like the genius that was recognized of Brian Wilson and the album Pet Sounds and stuff
yeah,
in
yeah,
recent years, for a while there, it was sort of like, okay, that's kind of the competition. And
yeah,
even at the era
yeah,
when they were
yeah.
producing music, the Beatles were going like, shit, what are the Beach Boys doing over there? Let's go do this
Right.
now. So there was a lot of, you can kind of go one way or the other on that seesaw for sure,
Yeah.
without having to hate either group.
Yeah.
So.
Some people are like, fuck to just say they love something. No, I'm not like that. I just it's unpopular opinion. At least in my circle of friends about the Beatles. It's like,
I think Ronald, I want to give you credit. I don't think that's like an unsupportable opinion, but
yeah.
I will say that is slightly unpopular. A lot of times when people say unpopular opinion, they then say some really soft thing that's not unpopular.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I
Like
realize
Dragon
this.
Ball Z sucks. That's
Well, I
actually a
realize this
really
is
good
rage
opinion.
bait. This is rage bait. You're
Yeah.
supposed to respond.
Yeah.
But I'm going to say that might actually that qualifies as an unpopular opinion, but only
Okay.
because the Beatles are kind of a sacred cow. But
Yeah. Yeah,
otherwise,
for
I
sure.
really do think there's a lot of reasons why someone might prefer
Yeah.
the sound and feel of what the Beach Boys were, especially those things
Especially Pet Sounds, man.
like that album. Like right, the Beach Boys, the later version, the sort of fairgrounds version of the band that's led by Mike Love, where
Yeah.
Brian Wilson is nowhere to be found. I don't think that's a version of the band that people really like
Yeah.
that much. But
Yeah.
yeah.
For sure.
But so yeah, it's sad to say goodbye to someone like Brian Wilson. That's truly
Yeah.
one of a kind, and very true of Sly Stone as well.
Yeah.
I mean, you'll
Yeah.
look at the people that were influenced by them, and you'll realize some of your favorite people, even if you don't like their music, some of their
Yeah.
favorite people are religious about them, because these are truly people that were pushing the art form forward, um, when they were making the stuff that they were making, and that's because they were hearing something in their head that didn't exist, and that's not always what musicians are doing, and I think it's you got to treasure those folks.
Yeah.
Very good. Movieschmovie.com is the website. You can go there to subscribe to the podcast in any of the audio podcast platforms that basically exist. You can also listen to it right there on the site as well. If you want to go to youtube.com/movie podcast, you can watch the podcast there. You can subscribe to it there. And you can watch the full episodes, the shorts, whatever you want, really. There's lots of options. Also, just the audio version is there as well. But if you do go there, please subscribe. Please hit the bell so you get notified when new episodes come out. It obviously helps us. And anywhere you might watch, listen, engage at all with this podcast, if you can leave a review or comment or hit the share button, and tell someone about us, please. Just tell, and really anybody, please, just tell somebody.
Yeah.
We'd really appreciate it.
Please, for God's
Please,
sake.
guys.
Yeah.
thank you so much for listening. We'll be back next week. And again, John's pick, Superman 3. It's on HBO Max. You can rent it basically anywhere digital that's out there on the web. We'll be back to talk about that next week. And as always, you made our day. Thanks.
Bye.